everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm Val Evans, and tonight I have Amy J. She is in the green room, and it'll be great to see everyone. For those of you who are seeing my channel for the first time, we look at the crime chart for a crime in question. And tonight we're looking at the JonBenet crime chart. So glad you could join us. Thank you for subscribing. And also to those of you who are members, we are going to be looking a little bit deeper into the charts at around 8:45 today. So we're going to pull a few charts and some cards in the meantime and see if we can come up with some clues or some new perspective on JonBenet. So happy Mercury retrograde. Hope you guys are surviving. Venus just went visible today. And that means some good things. We're going to start seeing a little bit more Venusian types of influences right now. And it's coming out of retrograde, still in shade, but we're very happy. We're probably happier today than we were yesterday. So something to celebrate. But we're going to be talking, this is actually a show about Mercury retrograde because JonBenet's murder occurred during retrograde. So we're going to get into that. And I'm going to say hello to Amy J. Let's see. How do I do this? There we go. Hey, Amy J.
Hey, everybody. Hello, Val.
Hello, and thank you for coming on. We know you were on vacation, but the vacation's over.
Well, let me tell you, with my 3 grandchildren and my daughter, I'm like, I was thinking about it earlier, and I
Yes.
thought, I really need some what I call woo-woo time. So I'm
Yes.
like, I'm going to take a shower and get my coffee and let's go.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to warn anybody that if you're coming on to say something weird, shocking, crazy, or rude, then you will be booted out. So we do not have any tolerance. But otherwise, it's going to be a great show. And thanks for everyone who's looking at this on the replay. We appreciate that you're still going to be interested. The conversation is always colorful, but we're looking at not only astrological clues, but we're going to look at just regular clues that you can spot. Everyone seems to have an opinion on this case. I mean, it was in 1996. It was 2 years after Nicole Brown Simpson was murdered. There was a lot of weird stuff happening in the late 90s. And it was just, even Patsy Ramsey in one of her interviews referenced that, which we're going to talk about in a second. I want to start with saying hello to everybody and thank you, Vigilante Warrior 42. And I'm going to just key this in for a second. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on a sec. And here's the first clue. Now, I'm not going to start out necessarily with astrological clues, but we're going to look at some of the things that were a little bit odd, and then I'll pull a couple of charts, and then we'll ask Amy for a card. How about that? So let me just, if you guys remember, some of you don't, which is fine. I barely remember this, but can you see that, Amy J?
I can.
Okay. This is the infamous interview with Patsy Ramsey and her husband JonBenet's parents, and they were going to battle with this investigator who eventually, I guess the crime happened in December 1996, and he ended up resigning in frustration in April of that next year. So he was only on this case for a few months, but he was smart enough to realize that the way things were going, it wasn't going anywhere. And so they were kind of going head to head during this interview, Steve Thomas, the investigator, and the police investigator, and the couple, the Ramseys. And so check out what John says to Steve. And I thought it was kind of interesting. You're going to think this is totally random, but just work with me here.
Yeah, and this is not out of the realm of concept. It happens every week.
Can you hear that?
Steve, you don't have children. Do you have a pet? Yeah, John, and let me tell you, I'm glad you have a pet. I do. And if
There's some type of echo.
Does it?
wet on the floor. Would you kill it?
Okay. He's talking about, I'll just tell you what he says. He's talking about asking Steve if he has a dog, and if his dog, if somebody killed his dog, what would he do? There is a comparison between a dead dog and a dead child. A lot of people had a problem with that after this interview, and it's still online. But I thought that was really interesting because, let me get this out of here, because of something else, which was in the ransom note. There was a mention about a stray dog. So I thought, and we astrologers, we look at themes with, planets, energies, words. It doesn't necessarily have to be astrology, but I thought that, somebody making a reference to a dog in an interview and then making reference, not to say that John Ramsey wrote the ransom note, but that same, um, it's a phrase in the ransom note that was found at the crime scene, was something about a stray dog. So we're going to look at that a little bit later. And now I'm going to show my presentation. Let's see here. Hang on one second. Hope you guys are doing great tonight as I figure this out. Okay, here we go. All right, so hopefully you can see that.
Yes.
All right. Now, I want to show you, actually, what I would like to do is just show you the very beginning, if I can do it, of my intro. And hold on, sorry. Video file. That's what I need to do. I need to share the video file. Hang on one sec, guys. Awkward. Okay. Download. There's just so much to think about when I start one of these things. All right. Well, you guys remember the intro that I had that I made live today. And there were quite a few things that I wanted to talk about. Actually, there were 5 clues. So I'm going to share my slides here. And one of them was the wedding chart. I had mentioned that there was some kind of revenge I was seeing. So I want to touch on that a little bit. We're going to look at the ransom note for JonBenet in the crime, or the JonBenet crime chart. We're going to look at the Boulder, Colorado chart. Now, if you've ever done this before, you can look at a city and look at the January 1st at midnight and then type in the city, and you can see what the city's themes are going to be that year. And oops, 1 second. And so that's what I did with the Boulder chart. And then the JonBenet birth chart, we're going to look at, just energies and predictions from the father and mother, and also her brother and his birth chart. And we can actually see the ransom note in his chart. And not to say that he had anything to do with it,
Right.
but in all of their charts, you can see all of the themes of this crime. So,
Well,
of course, yeah,
okay,
go ahead.
I'm not going to say that. I'll hold my tongue for a minute.
Okay. So Taurus Moon Tarot says, it makes a good point. When I see the chart for the 911 call, I'm so confused because of how obvious it reads. Well, yes. And one of the things that's actually, I think, I just wanted to show, hold on. I'm going to answer that in 1 second. As soon as I can forward this chart. Oh, okay. Okay. By the way, the members, we're going to talk about later, the JonBenet crime chart, more details, Patsy's birth and transit chart, and the forecast for murder, JonBenet's solar chart, the Boulder chart again, and who features prominently in the personal name, excuse me, asteroids. So, boy, I gotta snap out of it. I haven't done this in like Has it been a week?
From my coffee.
So that's what we're going to do with the members, and the personal name asteroids is pretty interesting because we show a few names and it's just shocking. So this is Mercury retrograde. So we're dedicating this show to Mercury retrograde. And it was at 18. It was between 18 and 19 on that night in Boulder, Colorado. So they were dealing, everybody was, it wasn't just this family, but Mercury was at 18 and it was aligning itself with certain parts of their birth charts. So I'm going to flip through here real quick, and I just want to show you. This is the 5:52, 53. When she called in the 911 call, when she reported that her daughter had been missing. And it was, if you look at the chart, you can see it is very obvious, but I don't like necessarily 911 calls because you don't know who's calling in. It's always nice to get a last seen chart, or maybe even fast forward or rewind the chart so you can see what was aligning maybe hours before, which is what we're going to do. So, Amy, go ahead and tell me what you were thinking.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about the ransom note and how you said there's themes in all their charts and all that kind of thing. And that to me is striking because if it was a ransom note by a family member, there would be family type things in there. Do you know what I mean? There would be maybe references or things that they would typically say, or things that they would that would be, you know what I'm talking about, how your family, you have themes, you talk in certain ways, there's certain
Yes.
things that you say.
Mhm.
So to see that in when you said it was in kind of in their chart, but also in the ransom note, that is like, wow, shocking.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know the astrology in this,
And
but
I
yeah,
think we're
that
going to
is
see,
shocking to me.
and that's a really great segue to the next slide, because there are
And it
so
wasn't planned.
what's that?
And it wasn't planned.
Yeah, I know. We never plan these things. It's crazy. We think we've planned it, and then something happens every single time. So it's interesting, and I think that's why people come on, because they want to see what else they want to see us get shocked.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So, well, Mercury retrograde, it's always good to have females on the case because, and it's funny. You always see many, not to say that there aren't really amazing male investigators, but the females have a different way of looking at the matter. So it's always good to get a 360 view. And of course trans as well. I mean, I can't leave them out. So anybody really who has that different perspective, we've got the logical people. Maybe I should say the logical
Mm-hmm.
people and the
Those
intuitive
that
people.
embrace the divine feminine.
There you go. So
And that can be male. That can be a male as
yeah,
well,
and
if
and
they
in
embrace
this,
that feminine part of them.
absolutely. Exactly. Angel D, yin and yang. You need yin and yang. And so what we're looking at is that different perspective, or we're looking with a different perspective. And we've got Mercury so strong. And I'm going to explain why during the show. But let me see. I'm still getting used to this thing. Oops. Hold on. Okay, you can see that.
Yes.
All right. So this is the ransom note, and it's numbered here. There is a really good website. I think I listed on here. Hold on. Yeah, it's statementanalysis.com. Any, as in any note, I guess you would number it as an investigator would. And Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. Everybody's seen the ransom note. And in the beginning, the person who's writing it almost intentionally, there's an suspicion that it was intentionally misspelled. So at this time, we have your daughter in our possession spelled wrong, business is spelled wrong, and yet the person has such command for the English language. I thought it
Yeah.
was really interesting that on line 7, it indicates to the letter. So the letter, I think, is really important here. It's the star of the show, the letter and the word, and maybe the accent, because you're going to see. You see the accent when the person suggests that they put the. I mean, it's almost laughable, really. They put the money in an attaché, which the person who is writing this has familiarity with accents on their, on some of their words, like maybe a child's name, like JonBenet. Now, it's online, so most of you have probably seen this, but this is a form that JonBenet's mother, Patsy Ramsey, filled out, and you can see the accent there on her name
Yeah.
right at the top there. It's just like a little, and it's, I mean, maybe it's a little bit different here, but you can see that that's one of the things that she would use a lot, was that accent.
Well, I wrote
And
JonBenet's name down today
uh-huh,
with my notes, and I didn't
okay.
use the accent. I
Ah,
mean, I didn't think about it even. So
yeah.
that's kinda interesting that you
Yeah,
bring that up.
the background, very, very sophisticated Southern background, very proud of it, and
Oh, yeah.
so yes, so the language is so high level for saying that you're a foreign faction. It's it's
Right.
just it doesn't. It
Command
just
of
seems
the
fake.
English language. Yeah.
Another comment from the investigators was that usually when people know that you have a lot of money, they don't limit it to six figures. It's usually much higher. So that was an odd. It was an odd number. And then hence, I believe people were looking at that. And then there was one of Patsy Ramsey's friends that came by the station and said that in a Christmas card she had written either the word hence or henceforth. She liked the word hence. So more things are kind of maybe adding up, but we don't know because it's our opinion only.
Okay.
And this case remains unsolved. And even the Ramseys were actually exonerated. If you remember, the DA came out with an apology saying that there
Yeah.
was DNA, foreign DNA, and that it's not the Ramseys, basically, which was what they were saying. So, 19 for proper burial in the ransom note. Proper burial is kind of a southern term. And this is interesting. Number 22. Now, for those of you who know the Taurus, late degrees of Taurus is algol, which means beheaded. And here she's writing about the person, if it was Patsy, is writing, your daughter will be beheaded. So something we can look for in the charts later. And there we go. If we
The dog.
catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. So there's another thing in there too. I think it was um, something about an account, and investigators were saying that usually it's somebody, maybe a husband or wife that talks about putting it in your account. You usually say put it in the bank. But 31, don't try to grow a brain, John. Very familiar. Maybe
Yeah.
she or he wants the ransom note to seem familiar, even though they start out the note with Mr. Ramsey, and you're not the only fat cat around. Another I'm just thinking about this reference to animals, Virgo and Leo. So Leo would be cat. Use that good Southern
And
common
and
sense.
and
Yeah.
think about if it's a faction from another
Mhm.
country, are
Yes.
they going to use those, what's the word for those? It's out of my head. I can't think of it. But
Terrorist groups,
colloquialisms or whatever it's called.
terrorists.
Like fat cat and
Oh, I see. Yes.
brains, don't try to grow
Yes.
a brain. I
Mhm.
I mean, if you're a faction from another foreign country, are those common phrases?
Euphemisms or yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
euphemisms. That was the word I was looking for.
Yes.
What?
Oh, well, fat cat is definitely a Southern phrase.
Wow.
So that's another thing that they pulled out of there. So yeah, it was definitely in my astrological perspective a fake note. And what is fake? Fake is Neptune, and fake is also North Node. It's a lie. It's something that you want to pull off that is not true. So, and there's the dog reference. And then you can also take a look at that interview with the Ramseys if you want. So this is something else too I wanted to throw out there. Just recently, I think in the past year, this last known photo comes out with A&E, and you can see her, um, her little elastic there. Now, there's a big controversy, or was, about whether she went to bed or not after that Christmas party that the Ramseys went to that night, and it was a last minute Christmas party. They were exhausted. They were tired. They had had so many parties. They'd spent so much money on, typically, because every year they would just throw so much money at entertaining, and there was probably drinking at this party. So they get home. I don't know, maybe before midnight, and this is what JonBenet looked like at the party. This is JonBenet at the party. Her hair is down, and she just has it held up by that elastic. So then you look. This is the picture of the autopsy, and that's how she was found. And I think it's my opinion that she never went to bed that night, and also her hair was pulled up. So think of what you want with that information. Uh, there was a lot going on around her neck. There were things that were tangled in her necklace, her gold necklace. Some mothers say most moms don't allow you to go to sleep with a necklace, but that's circumstantial. But this was big for me, seeing this. It's almost like they got home, and from what I'm seeing in the chart, things were at they they were really full tilt with regard to anger, with bad language too. That's Mercury at 18. That's like bad mouthing, really, and it could have come from the kids. So there's just tension is building. So what we're going to do is we're going to go. This is the 911 chart. You can still get information from it. I mean, look at the second house. That's money. And look at how Mercury retrograde is exactly on the cusp of the second house. Now, when you have a symbol on a cusp, which is where that line is, it makes it extremely strong. And so it's a major clue whenever we see something like that. So this is a letter, a note. It's at 18 degrees. It's an evil letter. And it's demanding what? Money. It's a ransom note. So you can see this is like the ransom note chart. And what's happening here is there's an opposition with the moon in Cancer in the eighth house. So there's a tug of war. I mean, that's the mother figure. So there could have been some kind of words that were exchanged. I also think, too, that maybe something, and if you notice Uranus here, uh, Uranus is to break. And Neptune is glass, another theme that we would see here with broken glass. So I feel like maybe something was broken, not just over her head, but maybe it was just a temper tantrum or something where the child was just out of bounds. Jupiter represents the victim here, and it also represents a child that's 6 or older. So, right next to Neptune, that can be someone who is, uh, out of bounds, not going by the rules, which is Capricorn. Jupiter in Capricorn is a child that's supposed to be following the rules, but maybe they're not, and mom's having a problem with it. So I am going to take a couple of comments. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking exactly what you're saying. Not thinking, but that's actually some information that I got earlier. I just really feel like when I tied into JonBenet's energy, which I haven't never done before,
Mhm.
I just never thought about it, I guess. But when I tried to feel into her energy, one of the things I felt like okay, here's a weird thing.
Okay,
And I know you like weird, so
I do. I
if
do.
you didn't, you wouldn't
I
have
want
me.
to hear it all.
Here's the weird thing. When I tried to tie in her energy, I felt a block from Patsy, which was really strange. And I've only felt that one other time when I was doing a reading for a gal,
Mhm.
and her mom and all her aunts and her grandma came through. And I said to her, you want someone else to come through, right? And she says, yeah. And I said, is it maybe your dad? And she goes, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, well, I show your aunts and they've got their arms interlocked like this. And they said, no way. We are not letting his energy through. And I said, so I'm not going to be able to bring him through for you, at least not at this time, unless you
Oh
want to go
my
talk to your aunt
god.
and ask permission. They will not let his energy through for me to reach. And I felt
Wow.
Patsy come in as a block.
Interesting.
And so I just thought that was really interesting. But I also heard little JonBenet. And again, this is weird. And then I heard a bigger JonBenet say something.
Ah,
But little
interesting.
JonBenet, and this is all allegedly, this is all for entertainment purposes, said my
Mm.
mommy did it.
Oh my
And
god.
I just went, what? Because like I said, I have never tied into this.
Well, Shauna, it's interesting that you said that because when I
Yeah.
was looking at Neptune next to Jupiter, I was like, I'm not going to say that, but you said it. So yeah, like maybe one of them, got into something, that they
Well,
weren't, they were doing something that they weren't supposed to do according to the astrological chart. And it was,
yeah.
the devil was in the house.
Yeah.
18 degrees. People were acting devilish. People
Yeah.
were responding devilishly. It was, from what I think, it was an Aquarius nature, which we will talk about.
Okay. Let me tell you one other thing that she said
Yes.
to me that ties right into that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
She
I'm
said,
sorry I cut you off there.
nope. She just said, I didn't always want to do what my mommy wanted me to do, and she would get mad. Um, and she said, not peeing in the bed. I do that a lot. But she said, mommy was having one of her bad days. That's what daddy calls them. But I was too. And so I woke her up and I saw kind of a tantrum, like kind of saw a tantrum.
Oh,
But I woke
mm,
her up and she got mad.
huh.
And then I heard it was an accident.
Well, and of course, anybody hearing this,
Trumpet
we don't
party boo sheet.
necessarily. What's that?
Boo sheet says was Trump at this party. God forbid.
You know what? It just, it's a good question. Uh, and of course, this is for entertainment purposes only.
Yes.
I hate saying
Yes.
that.
Yep.
And
Me
our
too.
opinion, was it the mom? Was it somebody's mom? Was it a mother figure? When we say a mother figure, it's not always the person's mother. Uh, moon also
Right.
means house. It means dog. So, we've got to be careful because we do not want
Yeah.
to. I mean,
Of
God
course.
forbid we would be wrong. We don't want to be wrong, but there are themes that we have to pay attention to. So,
Mhm.
Angel D, that's interesting. I didn't hear about that. Were people talking about the lamp? Um, I wonder if there was something broken now. I do know there was some shady stuff that happened. Uh, Another thought too was, I believe it was in Steve Thomas's book, where he said that one of the investigators that were charged with being near them in those first hours and days heard John Ramsey say in a very quiet voice, "Did you get my golf bag?" Now, as soon as I heard that, I thought of the O.J. Simpson case. I mean, for God's sakes, that's the
Absolutely.
first place where you should be checking these days. Like, who checks or who puts things in their golf bag? Well, apparently, according to police, this was very suspicious. So what could have been put in a golf bag? Well, maybe something that was broken, maybe something that could be found. So that could be something. Um,
Hmm.
Now, one solved mystery, I think you're talking about JonBenet. I know another neighbor saw a running man. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's interesting the parallels to the OJ case too. There's some parallel things there going on or that Gemini stuff, I mean, just that
yeah.
even if you look at how the case was handled,
Yep. And
because I
how's
feel like
this?
there was some suspicious stuff with how it was investigated. I'm just going to say it in that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And good point. Scorpio Moon, I thought that book was very good. It's very good on audio as well. Who writes a ransom note and puts the notepad back in the drawer? And then, all the pens are at the bottom. And they also saw that there was a practice. Somebody practiced doesn't mean it's a member of the family, but that was kind of a smoking gun there that somebody was practicing on another piece of paper. And it's all familiar. It's things around the person. They're going to, if that person's familiar, the perp to the house, they're going to know what to grab and what to get, we think. But what's really stupid is the fact that there's a ransom note and she was never taken. And it was just obviously two and two didn't equal four here. and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
and when that's the
Don't
case, you
typically
know,
don't ransom notes come in after, I mean, do you usually just leave one when you
I
go? Oh,
I know.
by the way, I just stole your dog. Thank you. Have a good night. I
Yeah.
mean, that kind of thing. It's just like it it just
Well,
seemed, I
you
don't know.
mentioned too that the O.J. Simpson. You were commenting on the O.J. Simpson
Mhm.
similarities, which we also did with Koberger as well. And one other similarity I pulled out was one of the neighbors said that if there was anybody going in and out of their house, their dogs would bark. Remember the barking dogs in the O.J. Simpson case? And that made a timeline for, well, kind of a flimsy timeline for when
Yeah.
OJ or the perpetrator entered and exited. In
Yeah.
this case, what did the neighbors say? The dogs didn't even bark. So they were thinking that there was nobody that went to the house and tried, wrote a note, murdered someone, wrote a note and then left. It doesn't sound right.
Well,
So
and just the time frame alone. If you go in to do a horrendous crime like that, you don't take time to practice your note, write a really long note, put everything back where you found it because God forbid they're going to see you left a pen out. It's just
exactly.
crazy.
I
I
know.
don't know. It just to me that's just crazy.
Well, and what is it? Mercury in retrograde, which is what we're in right now, equals chaos. So, and you take a chance. You take a chance, even being online and saying certain things that it can create chaos, which we hope it doesn't. And we'll take this down if necessary.
Yeah.
So, but your
But
live
on the
guys,
other hand, This is the energy that we need to be following for these cold cases and for cases that we want to see solved, because it's out there in the collective and the time is right for that. Now, for instance, I keep saying that, and I know I sound like a broken record, but they just found possibly more victims for the BTK killer. Okay, he's been sitting in prison. So that's what I'm saying. These
Yes.
things, this crime, these dirty deeds, these perpetrators, these murders are being solved, are coming up, missing people are being found. And this is the energy which, when we are talking about it and when we're putting it out there, because we're talking with a like-minded group of people, that energy gets out there. So I would love to have this case solved. I would love
Yeah.
it, you know?
Well, what some of the investigators say is that you would have to have a confession, which is probably
Can I
not going
clear
to
one thing
happen.
up? No, no, not more victims on the BK case,
Oh,
the BTK
the
case,
BTK. Yeah.
the
Thank you. Yes.
BTK. Yeah. He's
Yes.
already in prison for what he's done, but they're finding new victims and they're linking him to them.
Yes, and whenever we see Mercury retrograde, I mean, it's 3 times a year, so there's a high chance some investigation is going to begin during Mercury retrograde. And, just like with, Brian Koberger's case, that's what we're seeing. And definitely with the DNA, same thing with OJ. That was a Mercury retrograde case. People get angry during this time. That's why it's good to lay low. Don't have a don't have a quote unquote discussion with anyone unless you know that, they're chill.
They're
Because and even then,
like-minded.
I mean, it is a time to revise. It's a time to look through your relationships and see what you like and what you don't like, but it can make things just very tense, and a lot of arguments happen. People snap. And that's what I see when I see this chart. So I wanted to look, we've got a few minutes. I want to look at JonBenet's chart, and then I think we've got time for another one. But remember, I told you there's a real simple way when you look at your birth chart. This was a couple shows ago, where you can look at Mercury, what you were doing when you were 0 to 5 years old. Then between 5 and 6, you'll switch over to Jupiter, which is 6 to about 14 or 15. And then after Jupiter, then it splits. If you're a female, you'll be Venus. If you're a male, you're Mars. And then when you get older, and that goes till about maybe 40 or in the mid 40s. It all depends on hormones, when your hormone says you're done that phase. And then, about 50, you're at Saturn. And this can be difficult for people because you marry someone and say, you're a woman, you marry Mars, what is reflected at Mars. And then you hope that that person's Saturn isn't so bad, because that's the symbol that they become. So I'm going on and on. Let's look at JonBenet's chart. When she was a baby, she was at Mercury right in Virgo, and she had a beautiful grand trine there. Um, Still, it looked like some nefarious energy with that Mars in the 12th, which can be hidden enemies, meaning, men or a man might, I don't know. It could show that a man does not have strict boundaries with her, but can't really comment too much on her life between 0 or between, her birth and 5 years old. But if you go to Jupiter now, and I'm going to point to where Jupiter is. I don't think I can. Hold on one second. Okay, Jupiter is right at that 27 degrees in Cancer, and look at how it's right next to Chiron, which shows pain and bruising and hitting and abuse. And so that's the energy she's moving into in the 3rd house. Now, yes, it does mean a sibling, but Burke, her brother, was accidentally hitting her with a golf club, or maybe it wasn't an accident, I don't know. But there is a lot of sibling themes here where they're hurting each other. And I think that that might have factored in that night where maybe they were acting up. I don't think that Burke had anything to do with her murder, though. I really don't.
I don't
So
either.
you can also see too, I mentioned that father figure, the opposition towards that stellium of JonBenet. So there's some kind of um, it's just it's not harmonious. It seems looking at this. And the third house is also the way you communicate. So there might be hurtful communications. And, I don't really want to talk too much about the abuse part, but I do have I have a theory. And I really think because today I mentioned how Scorpio comes into this story. And I really feel as if there was domestic abuse, it was because of maybe too much attention being put on one person. And also I think too that sometimes in families a person can be seen as a possession, you know? She's not yours, she's mine, and it changes the dynamic of relationships. So I think that maybe if there was so much attention that was put on, one person more than the other, that Scorpio might have activated somehow. Yeah, it could have been jealousy, it could have been, just feeling like, when if or when the person is doing something illegal to a possession like, or a person that is being treated like a possession, maybe that makes them feel better. Uh, there was a lot of that, envy,
Mm.
jealousy, and I think too with the showcases of the house. There was probably a lot of jealousy and envy towards the Ramseys, so that may have factored in as well. So, yeah, there's. I'm trying to keep an eye on some of the comments just so.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that too.
Yeah, thanks. You,
No,
you're
I
going to
agree
do
with
that.
you. I think
We're
that
good.
I really very much feel that the energy around Patsy with JonBenet was, this is my possession to do
Yeah,
with her what I
I
want,
want
and
to.
this is what
Mhm.
I want her to
Yeah,
do. And I don't believe that JonBenet, as a child, just because she was a child, always wanted to comply. She was a child. They throw tantrums, they break things, they make their parents mad.
yeah.
It happens. I I feel like, yeah, that she was she didn't tolerate that well, that disobedience that was typical of a probably a child of her age that's being made maybe to do a lot of things she doesn't always want to do.
Exactly. I just want to answer this question real quick.
Mm.
On the last chart, what is your take on second house having so much going on? Well, at that moment, uh, the ransom note was sitting right in front of Patsy Ramsey. So I really think that second house showing money has to do with the note. Mercury is a letter, so
Mm.
a letter about money. I mean, it's and actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because I want to go back real quick. What's up at the top of the that chart is Mars police. Up at the top is North Node. So maybe you know an alibi for police. Maybe and sometimes North Node can be deception. So
Yep.
deceptive police, deceiving police. So you could say thank you, Rainbow Dreams.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay. So, okay. One
Mm.
solved mystery. Uh, Petechial hemorrhaging in her eyes and half moon claw marks on her neck indicate, unfortunately, she was very much alive.
Oh,
Ugh, God. Uh, that's tough. It's really tough to talk
yeah.
about in depth. And so we got to Jupiter, and that's something to take a look at if you want to look at John Benet's birth chart. that's where she was moving from Mercury when she was a kid to Jupiter when she's an older kid. And look at that in the third house where she becomes famous. Cancer is fame. So that's when she starts to get that fame from the pageants. People are like, she's going all the way. Like lots of eyes were on her.
Yeah.
And then that Venus too, she would be getting money. People would be talking about her beauty, which would be Venus. So suddenly she becomes just gorgeous. And so that
Yeah.
Venus would come into play. And we're going to have to move over to the members in another minute, but I just want to look at the crime chart and then we'll take it over to the members lounge. Do you
Interesting,
know
Angel's Granny. I hadn't
what's that?
thought of that. Well, the comment from Angel's Granny that she believes that or thinks that she may be, go ahead. Yeah, put it up there so I don't have to read it.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, when they brought her home from that Christmas party, that she was already dead. Then her parents were up all night getting the story straight and arranging the crime scene. And well, this is a good comment to look at because this is you notice I didn't put the time here, and that's because I think that maybe this happened right after that Christmas party. I think the kids were acting up. I think everybody was upset and mad. So I do
Tired
have
and
the
drinking and
yeah, and exactly.
messing
Very
around.
mad, very mad. Look at the trillium, the stellium in right there on the 7th house of the descendant. That's a lot of anger, Saturn in Aries. And it's also the father too, or father figure. Father, Father Claus. I don't know. We want to be careful about what we're looking at and saying, but it sure
Right.
shows. Now, Aries can also mean Ramsey. So there's
Oh,
that Ramsey theme there. Remember when I was talking in the very beginning with
nice.
on the Moscow murders. I thought that maybe a ram would be involved because of Aries. So here we've got Ramsey, and this is at 12 o'clock, and mom is at the top, or mother figure, or home. And at 20 degrees, the Scorpio degree. So now, did you know what planet represents urine?
No, what planet?
And the reason I ask is because one of the big shockers. They knew that the investigators knew that JonBenet had a bedwetting problem, which has been speculated for many years that she was sexually abused because it's a way to keep the
Right.
perpetrator at bay so they don't come near you. But there was a huge bag of diapers that I don't know if it was huge. Maybe it was just a bag. But from the way it was described, it was a bag of diapers that fell out and showed that she had a big bedwetting problem. So we have the victim there, Venus in the third. And what is right next to JonBenet is Pluto, which would be urine, her urine. Third house, that might be what they were talking about. And you've got different aspects going to and from those planets. So now Venus at 11 degrees shows 11 degrees is the Aquarius degree. So it's an accident. Aquarius is an accident. So it shows that she may have had an accident just out of the blue, spur of the moment, because of that Uranus shows unexpected. So, and with Saturn, maybe Saturn can be a smell. So there could be, here's the thing, and I'm going to wrap this up here and we're going to move on over to lounge. But what's so interesting, it's like a Shakespearean type of theme because there's a person in this family who so wants everything to be so beautiful, architectural, digest worthy,
Yeah.
everything perfect. The kids, perfect. The Christmas card photos, perfect. And you could go on and on and
Yeah.
on. And
Oh,
here here after.
JonBenet was any picture you see is perfection.
Yes.
I mean, she just looked like a little angel, but that's where I don't know. Yeah, okay, we'll leave that for the other part. But
It's interesting.
wow, Cassidy 007. I did not,
Yeah.
like I said, I have not looked. I knew about the case, obviously. Most of us have, but I hadn't really tried to feel into her energy. So I did not know that. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
So we're going to look at the Patsy Ramsey birth chart next. And then we're going to look at some of the points of where some of her planets are. And then we're going to also look at, this is really interesting, and what I think says it all. When you look at the solar chart for a father figure in this mystery. So,
Well, let me just say, if you're coming into members only, get in there because I got something on the dad too, but I'll wait for that.
on a father figure
My father figure,
who may or may not be
allegedly,
part of the family.
for entertainment purposes only.
All right. Well, it was great to see everyone. If you're interested in a reading, please look in my description. I'll have it in by tomorrow. And you can check out Amy J. She's an awesome tarot reader. You can also get a solar chart reading from me. Just go to the Out of This World option, and the link will be below in the description box. Please remember to subscribe, and we'd love to have you as a member or valedictorian.
One
So
other plug for me, I just started a podcast. I know it's not that
yes,
great, but
thank you.
because it's just brand new, I just started it. It's mostly been on the Idaho 4. It's called Through the Eyes of the Victim. And so it focuses on mediumship and things that I get from my guides and energy that I pick up from the victims. And right now it's on Idaho 4, but I am going to go into probably some of the less well-known missing persons or crime charts, cases, not charts, but crime cases as well. So
Perfect.
check it out.
All right. Well, great. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'll have a link in the description box. And just give us about 2 minutes and we'll see you over in the members lounge. Have a
Bye.
good night.
Bye.